Every animated villain you come across from the past few decades nearly has some common ingredients: an evil hinge, a dark persona, or overly dramatic energy. But villains of the DreamWorks universe don't follow this standard formula. So before wasting any more time, let's start breaking it down. Eris.
Proteus couldn't help being ever so noble, and you couldn't help betraying him.
Eris brings an unhinged energy to the universe with her unmatched manipulation. Hailing from Sinbad, legend of the seven seas, she is the unparalleled goddess of chaos who simply cannot thrive in peace. You must be wondering if she would have some big trauma behind her, but that's not it. There's nothing behind that. Her nature just thrives on chaos. And that is why she clearly tells Sinbad that she plans on transforming the world into utter chaos. Eris is not your usual villain who would cut throats or instill fear in people's hearts. She's much more dangerous than that. With her manipulation, she can turn the city upside down. She doesn't need an army or a weapon. A single whispered lie does more damage than a blade ever could. And that kind of power only rests with a few. What makes DreamWorks villains so different will be visible with the contrast between Eris and our next villain, Grimmel the Grizzly.
A year since Drago's defeat, and no further along with your dragon army, I see.
From How to Train Your Dragon, the hidden world, this dragon hunter is as ruthless and cunning as one can be. Grimmel dedicates his full force to driving dragons to extinction, and to do that, he has pushed the Night Furies to the brink of extinction. You must be wondering that ruthlessness and cunningness is an attribute many villains have, so what sets Grimmel apart? You are right in wondering that, but the answer to your question is the trauma Grimmel carries from when he was a little boy. He found a Night Fury at his disposal as a boy. He had two choices: kill or tame. Grimmel sided with the former, and that one terrible decision separates what he could have been from what he became. It shows that he wasn't born evil, and neither are all villains. DreamWorks doesn't ask you to forgive him for it, it just asks you to notice the fork in the road he walked past. Some just become who they are because of one bad choice, one weak moment, and one decision from which there's no turning back. Drago Bludvist.
My family taken, but even as a boy.
Next up, the warlord Drago from How to Train Your Dragon. 2 is just as similar to Grimmel, but at the same time, just as different. Confused, right? So here's the thing. Drago also works to conquer dragons. His goal is to capture them and enslave them to become a part of his army. But unlike Grimmel, he never got a choice. According to Drago, these dragons attacked his village where he lost his family and an arm. When you come to think of it, you can't entirely say that his vengeance is unjustified. It just puts things into perspective and shows how DreamWorks provides a humanizing angle to their villains, because not everything is white and black. There's a huge gray layer in between. While there's no excuse for what Drago has become, you can at least understand why he is what he is compared to Grimmel, who just chose to be outright cruel when he had another sane choice. Just because they are working toward the same goal doesn't mean they are the same. They are two characters worlds apart, and that's the kind of range DreamWorks lends to its villains. Rumpelstiltskin.
Some people like to look at the goblet as half empty.
Here comes a completely different shade of villainy. Rumpelstiltskin, from Shrek Forever After, is purely built out of pettiness. And that pettiness comes from when his dreams were shattered before his very own eyes. With his magical dealership skills, he managed to trick King Harold and Queen Lillian into signing the Kingdom of Far, Far Away to break Fiona's curse. But all his life's work fell apart the moment Shrek rescued Fiona. He never got over it. That's it. From there onwards, he just transformed into a con artist to get even for that missed business deal. There's something almost pathetic about it too. A villain whose entire master plan boils down to a grudge over a bad contract. This type of villainy shows the polarity in the arcs of villains in this universe, and each arc brings its own flavor, just like Rumpelstiltskin.
Titan.
Roxanne Ritchie! I saw her having dinner and making googly eyes at some intellectual dweeb.
Can you imagine a cameraman turning into a villain? Well, that's what DreamWorks gives us through Titan, previously known as Hal Stewart. This cameraman falls obsessively in love with the reporter Roxanne Ritchie, acquires all of Metro Man's powers after Megamind accidentally shoots him with the serum meant to create a new hero. And guess what Titan chooses to do with those powers? He uses them to impress Roxanne, but to no avail, and the rejection is what ignites the villain inside of him. The switch flips, and he decides to use those powers to become a supervillain. It's not as if Hal was corrupted by power or propelled by Roxanne's rejection. The rejection just removes the reason to be the nice guy. He was never really a hero underneath it all, just a nice guy, waiting for permission to stop pretending, and he could finally put the mask away and embrace his reality. Titan is the perfect example of the number of layers a villain has in the DreamWorks universe. Jack Horner.
After so many years of searching, this is my moment.
Moving on to the unforgettable Jack Horner, a pastry mogul and crime lord who starred in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Horner is as unapologetic as one can get. Outright cruel and obsessive, his only purpose is to control all the magic on the planet. Horner, like Rumpelstiltskin, is obsessive but far more dangerous than he is. What makes Horner different is how ruthless he is. Unlike most of the villains in the DreamWorks universe who have a redeeming quality or a human angle, but not with him. He is the kind of person who is rotten to the core, and it sickens you to watch him in action. There's no childhood wound to excuse him, no tragic backstory waiting in the wings. He's simply chosen greed as his entire personality. And that's probably what makes him the guy everybody hates but can't help being entertained by. King Ramesses II.
I am the morning and the evening star. Ramesses.
And to further show you the range, let's take a 360-degree turn to Ramesses from the Prince of Egypt, the polar opposite of Horner. The relationship between him and Moses was adorable, brotherhood personified, but ultimately duty tore it apart. Ramesses depicts what a man can become under pressure and through the hardships of life. With deep love for his brother, he was labeled the weak link by his strict father, and that's what pushed him to toughen himself up. It just goes back to the old belief that villains are not born, they are made. The father always gave priority to Moses and gave brutal tasks to Ramesses, such as the torture of the Hebrew slaves. And that's how his perception of a ruler shaped up. Every cruel command he issues later feels less like malice and more like a son still trying to prove himself to a father who is no longer there to see it. It doesn't excuse what Ramesses does, but it certainly shows why he is like this. And when you come to think of it, this is not much of his fault as much as it is his father's. Lord Farquaad.
Not the monster here, you are! You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world.
Next up is one of the most intriguing villains in the DreamWorks universe, Lord Farquaad from the original Shrek. A cunning and sharp villain who can bend the entire system to his will, dressed up as a harmless comedian. Farquaad builds a highly effective system where he offers rewards to citizens to turn the fairy tale creatures into his guards. And he does so because he believes that these fairy tale creatures are trash, who pollute the idea of his perfect kingdom. It's bureaucratic evil dressed up in a tiny castle. The scariest part isn't the cruelty, it's how efficiently the system runs. This is pure evil wrapped in comedy, and this is a unique niche of villainy that hits right on its chords. The Fairy Godmother. From Shrek 2, the fairy godmother makes you hate her through the screen because you know what she's doing, but the person she is doing it to can't realize it until it's too late.
Oh, my dear. Oh, look at you. You're all,
She had made a deal with King Harold that her son Prince Charming would rescue Fiona, but not to be as Shrek got there first. But unlike Rumpelstiltskin, she doesn't become petty. In fact, she is far too smart to be petty. She subtly manipulates Shrek into believing that Fiona is too good for him. She never raises her voice or her hand. She simply plants a seed of doubt and lets Shrek's own insecurity do the damage for her. And that insecurity does the rest. This kind of evil can be far more scary than a cut-your-throat type villain. Tai Lung.
The puffy panda? Poe might be an idiot, but he'd never willingly hand over Oogway's staff.
Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda represents a completely different villainous niche. Brainwashed by Shifu, his trainer for becoming the Dragon Warrior, he lost his mind when he was rejected by Oogway in the Dragon Scroll, and that was the making of this villain who ran riot through the Valley of Peace. Oogway was right in his rejection, giving the reason that Lung had a strange darkness within him. Shifu unintentionally nurtured that darkness and led him to believe that he was destined to become the Dragon Warrior. And at one point, you realize that this obsession was instilled into him by his master, and maybe he wasn't so much at fault. It's a small but important distinction. Oogway saw a wound, not a monster, and the difference matters for how the whole saga treats him later. The false belief slowly seeped into his identity, and then there was no going back. Lord Shen.
At last we meet.
Tai Lung is an example of chasing a broken promise, while Lord Shen exemplifies running from one. A soothsayer told Shen, as a young peacock, that if he continued his violence, he would be ultimately defeated by a panda warrior. And with that prediction began the journey of even more extreme violence as he set out to massacre a panda village. Triumphant, he returned home hoping he would be met with crowns, but his cruelty even scared his parents away, who banished him from the city. He then goes on a mission to defy fate once more by fighting a prophecy with force. The tragedy is that his attempt to escape the prophecy is exactly what fulfills it. Every violent step forward only tightens the noose. Shen is a unique villain arc, seldom seen, and it gives key life lessons. At times, you cannot outrun fate. Death. From Puss in Boots, The Last Wish is inarguably the strangest villain on the DreamWorks roster.
Well, well, if it isn't Puss in Boots himself.
Who is a wolf hunting Puss for wasting 8 of his 9 lives. He pursues Puss and remains an incarnation of death simply because he is inherently ungrateful for the lives he has been given. It's a rare concept you wouldn't find in the DreamWorks universe elsewhere. He's less a villain and more a mirror, forcing Puss to finally look at how carelessly he's been living. His agenda is not to seek revenge or rule a kingdom, but just force the hero to grow up. And that's what makes him so unique and respected. Captain Chantal Dubois.
It was never about the money. It was about...
She is a perfect example of a no excuses villain. Captain Chantal Dubois from Madagascar, 3 Europe's Most Wanted, doesn't attract any sympathy, nor does she try. From Monaco, she's on a wild goose chase for Alex and his friends across Europe as an animal control officer to cut their heads and mount them as trophies. Sick, isn't it? There's no trauma, it's just how she has been from childhood, and that just changed into a career. In a roster full of tragic backstories, her sheer lack of one is almost refreshing. Pure, uncomplicated obsession. It gets extremely personal for her, and she is willing to kill any animal that comes her way during this chase. It becomes so personal that she continues to chase Alex after he has left her jurisdiction and is in a zoo where he is legal. This villain is purely obsessed and evil, no strings attached. I hope you liked the video and understood why the DreamWorks villain roster is the most unique you will ever come across. From goddesses of chaos to grieving fathers to a wolf who's just tired of Puss's nonsense, no 2 villains here play by the same rules. Don't forget to like the video, comment on the villain you think is the most unique, and finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. We will be back with more such videos. Until then, take care.